Welcome to another episode of the Everyday Game Changers, man. Um, we dealing with everybody that's changing the game in business, in music, in community. Anybody that's changing the game, man. We definitely want to have them. Man, I got a guest today. Y'all probably not gonna believe I got this guest, but man, I'm so honored, man. Mr. Kyle Dendy is in the building.
Man,
Uh,
it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, man. I followed you for a minute, so I'm excited for this.
don't know Kyle, my goodness. I mean, I would say world-renowned speaker at such a young age too. So he looked young, but he got some stripes in. You feel me? Author, now in the PR game. So it's we're gonna talk about all of those things. I want to say I got put on the Kyle. I want to say it was a YouTube video. My mom is, when I say religious, when I used to grow up, I was in church literally 6 days a week, bro. I was
Yeah.
Mondays was Mighty Men Mondays.
Oh, you were there.
Tuesdays was uh youth choir. Wednesdays was Bible study. Thursdays was junior choir. Fridays was like that was like the youth night where they didn't want us
Yeah.
out, so the youth was inside the
Yeah,
church.
yeah, yeah.
Saturdays was feed the homeless, and then we was back at church on Sundays, bro. I got to a point where I was like, when I get older, I'm not gonna go to church this much. Like this is like overkill. It's like a full-time job. But I think my mom sent me one of your YouTube videos. You was on like a popular gospel.
Yeah, it was a really popular Christian TV show.
Okay,
Still is, called Life Today. And so that
right.
was my first TV appearance. I was
Nice.
17, I think I was 18 at that time. And that honestly changed the trajectory of my life. And now a lot of what I do is more entrepreneurial, but it definitely, everything has led to the next thing. And it all started there.
So I think a combination of her sending me this video, she's like, look how young he is and how passionate for
Oh,
Christ he
I
is. Like,
love that.
yo, so that's my mom. So I was like, all right, man, I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna check it out. So she sent me the YouTube clip. And I would say this is how I know the government is watching. Literally after I watch your YouTube clip, I think I seen one of your ads, bro. Like not, I mean, probably within the next 5 minutes. And
I have
I
no
wanna
doubt.
I want to give Kyle a testimonial. I've got the speaker secrets course, and literally in, I would say 48 hours, like a
Right.
bunch of rotaries and so I want to talk a little bit about that because prior to COVID hitting, I had like a 17 city tour booked out that I
Yeah,
had
let's
to
talk about it.
literally give so much deposits back that I'm just
Mm.
like, if I'm going through this at the beginning, I know you had to give a lot of money back. So talk to me about how that was.
Man, I'll tell you what, dude. So obviously the pandemic changed a lot for a lot of people.
Right,
For me, I had two main streams of income leading up to that.
right.
Um, I had a speaking program in which I was, getting paid to teach people how to land speaking gigs. And then I had a speaking tour. Like we're talking like official, like local government saying we need this in schools, and I was sent out to do it.
Wow.
Supposed to be in cities and schools all over the place. Right before the pandemic, I got sent to Houston, and I think in the matter of like 5 days spoke like 15 times and got paid well for it. And this was just lined up, nothing could go wrong. And then all of a sudden I start seeing little comments on my ads, and people are like, somebody commented, they're like, cough, cough, COVID. Because of course my stuff is all in-person based, right? And I had no idea what this thing was. Had never heard of it. And all of a sudden, because like I run a lot of ads, so I see, ad spend, return on investment.
Of
And man, when
course.
I say I just saw it start to like tail off. But
Wow.
what was really crazy was not only did the entire public speaking tour get canceled instantly, and I had to turn off my ads basically overnight, but I had just gotten married,
That's
like
right.
probably 3 days before all this happened.
Oh my
And
goodness.
when I say like, getting married, you want to have your stuff lined up, right?
Of course.
You want to have like, you know, the part of your confidence and I'm ready to get married is like you've got your finances in order. And so I was quickly in a place where I had to like figure out what was next. And so overnight, yeah, I lost that entire business. You could really say two different businesses, entire speaking tour canceled, everything that was supposed to happen in theory canceled. And I couldn't see at the time how, God was going to use that and how I was going to find what was next for me. But when I say like I had to like figure it out in real time, right? In real time, it was tough. But again, like everything leads to the next thing, and it's led to where I am right now. And I'm sure, I mean, I'll dive into any of the details of that if you'd like to. But yeah, dude, I lost it all overnight.
And the reason I think these stories are so important, right? Because social media is the highlight reel, right? So everybody
Yeah,
sees all the wins, but not
sure.
many people talk about the losses. Because I went through the same thing, right? So I didn't have it like a speaking business per se, but I was excited to really get on the road and
For
touch
sure.
people, right? So to just give those deposits back at the beginning of my speaking career was just like, oh my gosh. But I owned a marketing agency here in South
Yeah.
Florida. All of my customers were small business owners, right? I had a plumber, I had a carpenter, I had a window company, and they just straight up told me, look, we don't know how we're going to pay for marketing because we may not even keep the doors open. I literally lost every marketing client
I
during
feel it.
COVID.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what? Same thing. I got a wife to answer to, right? So, like,
Right.
what
Yeah.
am I going to tell her? I quit my job to start this marketing company. And she's just like, you'll figure it out. And I had a friend call me and he's like, hey, man, do you still take pictures, man? I'm trying to sell this house. I need some good photos. So I'm like, yeah, man, I got you. Stop by. And he's like, yeah, I need you again. I got another house. And I'm like, oh, look at God just throwing
Yeah.
something in my lap when I didn't know what was
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
happen. And I literally, bro, we started a real estate photography company in the middle of COVID. It's
And it was birthed out of the need, right? It came out of what was happening. And this is what I think is really important for, entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, to realize is like, being an entrepreneur is not just about being able to get something to work once. I felt like my business was invincible, and personally, it felt like this, thing that happened globally,
right,
shutting down in-person speaking engagements came straight for my business. Even though I felt like it's an online business, it's invincible. But I think really being an entrepreneur is about not just being able to build something once, but being able to build it again. And I think one of the most valuable things that you and I both have, and a lot of people listening to this, is when you build skills, especially high income skills, you can apply those skills to something else. So you had a skill for photography and for, communication and whatnot. So it was a pivot, right?
right.
And so, I mean, that's the same thing that sort of happened to me. I made some pivots, and it wasn't a perfect pivot. It wasn't here, pivot, now we
Of
go to the next
course.
one. It was
Right.
try, fail, try, fail, try, fail. But what I have seen, and I was at like a little get together with some friends recently, and I was just like overhearing a conversation, and somebody said it so well that like, and at least it applied to me, like when your back is against the wall, man, your brain comes up with solutions.
That's a
And
fact.
I think, especially when you have like a spouse to answer to and you have responsibilities and
Right.
things that have to get done, like, man, I want to encourage somebody right now who feels like they're at that place where something just crumbled and you don't know what's next. We have all been there. Like, you're going to be okay. It may be scrappy. It may not look as clean right away, but you're going to get through this and you're going to be stronger because of it.
Yeah. And I think that's important for people like us to really share those failures just because
Of course.
everybody every people be so confused by social media, I think sometimes. So like
Scary. Yeah.
when people DM me and I respond, it's like a big deal. And I'm like a real person. I got problems. I got you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm human. So yeah, I responded. Like I appreciate you even taking the time out to whether it was a question or whatever the case may be. I try to respond to everybody because I'm like, I'm a human at the end of the day. I'm not
Yeah.
super rich that I can't answer a DM. Now some stuff just don't get answered. You know what I mean? I don't
Sure.
want to confuse it, but
And yeah, and let's clarify, like there's a way to reach out to people, and really you can get in touch with just about anybody if you reach out the right way. Like, you know, both you and I, we both, we have businesses and maybe we run ads and whatnot. And so there's a lot of people reaching out. And like you said, we're happy to answer.
Yeah.
But if you just say, hey, like,
What do I do
don't
with
be
that?
surprised
Yeah.
if I don't answer.
What do I do with hey, right?
Right. And yeah,
Hey
and
back.
right. And I usually don't even get to that point. But like, so, but that's, I think it's so important because my most profitable moves I've ever made have all come from like relationships with the right people. Right. And so you have to learn how to network.
Of
And
course.
part of that is like, you can, with this phone in your hand, which has more technology than, they sent people to the moon with the first time. You can get in touch with just about anybody, but you have to learn how to, whether it's leading with value or at least leading with your question to give somebody the chance to answer and start that conversation. But I recommend people drop the just like, hey, and then expect somebody to,
Do
just, yeah,
everything, right? So
exactly.
talk to me a little bit about like I'm so intrigued by your story because it took me a really long time to get to a point, especially like I've always been, I would say, faith based, right? My mom laid some good groundwork and I kind of strayed and kind of figured it
Yeah,
out.
I
And
get it.
I always came back, but I felt like I had to come back for me, not because my mom said do it,
100%. Yeah.
right? How did you get there so early? Like, what was that like?
Dude,
It feels like
challenge.
you just got it early, and it took me to like now to really understand. Like,
Man, I think everyone has their journey. And, some people's is like they stayed on it. Some people were never on it. Some people were on it, then came off and came back. So like everyone's story and journeys can be different. For me, bro, like I went through a lot at a very young age. At 5 years old, I saw my dad just after he took his life. And my mom being somebody who was so strong in her faith, I'm thankful to God for her. Man, she kept us on the right track at a very impressionable time in our life for a lot of reasons, one of which we were just young. But I grew up in a Christian school and home, but I also know people who did the same thing and didn't stay on the right track. So I think everyone's story is different. And like, all I can really say is it is the grace of God that, I've been able to stay on this path and have the right people around me, whether it was family, the right friends.
right,
But it's been my journey. And yeah, that's kind of been that at a young age, leaving high school, I started doing a lot of speaking that began primarily as preaching and things like that. So I think also that having a platform early, especially a platform that was faith-based, I think that also, I knew what I had. And so I knew what I couldn't do and couldn't be. Right. So when I go to college or went to college, I knew there were certain things that there's a saying like others may, I may not. Right.
right,
And that I think isn't just like if you have a ministry platform. I think that's if you have a business platform, if you have, a marriage, like there are things that others may, you may not. I'm sure many people watching this right now relate more maybe on the entrepreneurship side. Like you can't live your life like the person who doesn't have a business and
that's a
expect your
fact,
business to succeed.
right.
Others may, you may not. Um, and then through a lot of good people and by the grace of God and just a little of my own doing, very small amount, like was able to stay on the right path and not perfect, made
Right,
plenty of mistakes, but
of course.
overall kept on that journey.
I didn't even know that about your father. It's so funny when you
Yeah.
get to talking. So I lost my dad in 2010, the
Sorry
exact
about
same
that.
way, bro. Nobody knows that. So
Yeah.
like it took me a really long time to even open up and speak about that because
Big facts. I understand that completely.
I don't even think I think it happened so fast. I was trying to be so strong for maybe my sister and my stepmom at the time that I never really grieved over that whole situation. Here it's
Right.
been 10 years already and it's just like feels like it just happened, right?
Yeah.
So me and Kyle got a lot in common.
I'm sure, man. And I think, dude, um, I think oftentimes people that achieve a lot in their life, like, man, people want what they see, but they would never want the things they don't see. And I'm not saying that like we would wish, what happened on anybody, but the common thread is like have had to walk through fire.
Right.
Like I have a little board over here, and one of the things that it says is like the sword has to be forged under fire. Like a plane only takes off against the wind. Um, you got to be willing to like you know, understand that things are going to come against you, but those things don't have to defeat you. They don't have to keep you down. Like those things can make you stronger. Resistance makes you stronger.
What's one of the biggest things, or what I say is like, I almost don't even want to use the word entrepreneur no more because it feels so trendy. Like,
Yeah, everyone's an entrepreneur.
my gosh, and I'm just like, I don't even know what to say to. They hit me up like,
Sure.
hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm like, oh, what do you do? I got an e-commerce store. Okay, that's what's up. You got like
Yeah.
a business? Nah, I just be selling stuff on eBay. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I literally took it out my bio, bro. Like I just like
I hear you.
I don't even want to use the word entrepreneur. But what's one of the biggest misconceptions you would say about people who not are entrepreneurs and want to be? Like, what would you say that misconception is?
That is for everybody.
Right.
100%.
I
This is
tell
not for everybody. Can't,
facts.
you don't, many people do not want this. And I'll explain why. Like for one, like um, entrepreneur, can anybody be an entrepreneur? Yes. Anybody can go to inkfile.com. I'll even send you a referral link and you can get your little LLC, right?
Right.
Anyone can start a business. Anyone can be an entrepreneur, but should you? Many people shouldn't. And I love what somebody said. They were like, if you're asking the question, the answer is probably no. Should I be an entrepreneur? Because like entrepreneur looks good when you see like lifestyle, right? People want to see the fruit and they want to, or rather get the fruit of it. Nobody wants to, right after you get married, lose your entire business. And then not only that, that's not the hardest part. Then have to, with the time crunch, build from scratch.
Right.
That's what being an entrepreneur is. And so, yeah, I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions is that it's easy. Oh, I got another one, man. This one I think is one that you ask entrepreneurs and people who want to start a business, you say, like, what are your goals? Or how much, like all this kind of stuff. And everybody always says, I want to make $1 million, right? Or even they say 6 figures. Like 6 figures is such a buzzword.
It's a
The
joke.
problem with that is like, man, let me break this down. What people don't understand, one, what you really need to do when you're aiming for your goal, which I believe in setting clear targets, but you should first figure out like your ideal lifestyle, whether it's what you're spending as well as what you're saving, what you're investing, like what does that actually cost? Because the cost to have a 6-figure business and 7-figure business isn't just money. There's a lot more things that it takes of you. Your role changes. My role this last year has changed from hustling to leading teams and organizing structures and things like that. And a lot of people, what I'm afraid of is that they're going to say, I want to be a 6-figure entrepreneur, when really their perfect sweet spot would have been 60K, replacing their job. But now they're stressed because they're chasing for what the other person
Right.
has or says they has. And same with 7. 7 is a different beast from 6. And so I think if people got more clear on what they want, instead of just looking at Instagram and trying to want what other people want, like,
That's very well said.
yeah,
I,
is huge.
so I used to work for a I think I just got tired, really. I would say that's how I got into entrepreneurship. I think I knew as a kid.
I get that
I,
word, bro.
I
Tired, man.
I was tired, bro. And I just like as a kid, I always had a hustle about me. Like I could
Yeah.
figure out how to get some money. Like I literally bought my house selling all my old Jordans on eBay, like 10
I
grand
love it.
worth, bro. And I'm like, people buy old shoes that somebody wore? Sure, you can have them. I'm not.
Yeah.
I wear like the same 5 pair of shoes, bro.
Yeah. I wear like the same too.
Yeah. So it's just like, nah, I'm good. And so I always knew how to get some money. But what happened was I always got into these companies where there was the glass ceiling, right? So I worked
Yeah.
at an engineering firm. I went to University of Delaware for civil engineering. I was doing all of this work. I dropped out of college because I had the job that I needed. So in order for me to graduate, I would have had to quit working for a year just to finish. I'm like, you know what? I'm already at the job that I'm gonna get after college anyway. I'm just stay here. So
Yeah.
I got a lot of on-the-job training. Worked there for like 13 years, bro. I couldn't make no more than 45 grand a year. I said, if I go back and get this piece of paper, how much can you give me? 55,000. Like, this is crazy to me. So I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? I'm gonna pack my car up. I packed my car up and I just drove to South Florida. I used to go to Miami all the time, and I was just like looking at how much money was being circulated in the
I want to
city,
come
and
back to that in a second. Yeah.
I'm like, this is it's so much money here. I can figure it out here, because a lot of people that I talk to that come to South Florida, they're not from here, and they just always figure it out. And then the people that are from here can't figure it out. So it's crazy.
Bro, dude, and that's exactly it. I was at a conference and this guy CJ was on the stage talking, and I forgot where exactly his family moved to the States from, but he was talking about how like nobody is trying to sneak into Afghanistan. Like
Yeah,
nobody is trying to like break into like people want to come here because here you have more opportunity than, say what you want about like there's political things, there's all this stuff, whatever, but there is more opportunity here than anywhere else in the world. And everybody realizes it except those who have
that are
always
here,
been here.
of course.
And, like you said a second ago, there is so much money being circulated. And it's not even in the sense of like being money hungry, greedy, chasing after it. Just today, like where you can get your phone out and get a little crypto and then watch it go up, and then
It's
like
crazy, crazy.
like there's people that have less than you, people younger than you, people that have all the things that you're making excuses about doing more,
Right.
right? And there's just so much out there that like, man, I'm passionate about a lot of things, but to see somebody like take something that I can teach them and actually generate income with it is one of the coolest things, because that changes their life, that changes their spouse, their family, their kids, like their options and their freedom like this,
That's the
you
impact
know?
that I always tell people, man. How you going to
Yeah.
impact? Like, we can make all the money in the world, but did you impact anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, a lot of people hit me up and they're like, "Oh man, um, if I like post something, like I might have a good day and I might put a post like, it used to take me a month to make 5K, and now to make
Yeah.
5K in a day is actually real." As soon as
Yeah.
you post that, they're like, "Oh man, how can I get involved?" And da 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 da. And then I'm like, I don't want to. I can teach you what I do, and hopefully it works. But nobody want to put no work in it. It's just like,
Man, say it, dude. Like I struggle with that because every once in a while I'll like, not share like an opportunity in my story or something. And then I'll like be like, but no, people want the thing, but nobody wants to, in general, um, either put in the work or take that step to invest in
yeah,
the opportunity. And I'm sure you and I can talk about that like a bunch. Like you got to invest where you're trying to go. Like you can't just expect to pick people's brain. And even if they did, like when you pay attention. So if you get it for free, like the Bible talks about throwing your pearls before like the pigs, they'll just trample over them. And so sometimes like it's not even worth putting out the real game because it's just going to get stepped on.
I like that.
But I'll sit down one-on-one with somebody and share it and watch them implement. Like I had a friend of mine recently and his funnel just like wasn't converting, and it was a problem because he was spending money on ads to get traffic there. And so I went over it with him and I said, change this, change this, change this. And he texted me in the morning and said, we got a sale, right?
Nice.
So information oftentimes in this game is what you're missing.
Mm,
If you just go to YouTube and just go to free places, you're going to get information overload, which
mm.
often leads to you not doing anything or doing the wrong thing or just feeling like, it
Wormhole
like
of
it's
YouTube,
not
right?
working. Yeah. But so if somebody is doing what you want to be doing, like vet the person, ask the questions, vet the person if you need to like vet their, legitimacy. But if they have a program set up,
Yeah.
like either do it or don't complain that,
Man, and that's why I've bought people's courses. I tell people like, why would you be like I think I did Speaker Secrets, and then I think it was like a 2.0 version, and I did that one too.
yeah,
Like, he's doing what I'm trying to do. Like, I always um thought I always like to give information, right? I mean, my wife tells me, "Yo, you do too much for people too much." Like, You just let people call and ask you questions, and that's family, that's friends, and then all they do is just suck you dry. So
And then
she's
they
like,
don't
yo,
do anything with it.
and then they don't do anything with it. And I know she's gonna see this. My mom, you are guilty of it as well. My mom is guilty of it as well. So it's just like that
But
whole
let's even dive into why that is. Like, I think one of the things that people don't understand, like for example, they can look at, like, in my business, we've made, you know, 7 figures in my agency.
Mhm.
Um, people would love to have that.
Right.
People wouldn't necessarily love to spend hundreds of thousands on Facebook ads
That's the difference.
and you know, and spend money to make money, right?
That's a
Um,
fact.
and so you have to invest where you're trying to go. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things in the world today where it is pay to play, or at least pay to go faster.
Of
Um,
course.
and so if you just want to do I'm just going to do organic, just posting in my feed and try to fight the algorithm, and I'm just going to, you know, figure it out myself and not invest in somebody's $1,000 program that is telling me they'll show you exactly how to do it. Like, you just told me you got in my speaker course and we're landing speaking engagements in less than 48 hours. Like, come on now. Like,
I'm like, this works. Why wouldn't I get 2.0? Maybe it's something I didn't get from the first one. Like,
yeah.
and I'm like, I think, and I hate to say this, man, our community is some of the worst. So I get a lot of people. So with this real estate photography company, we get a lot of people that book because they saying they want to support Black
Mhm.
business owners, right? My problem with this is, yes, they want to support Black business owners, but when they come because they look like me, they still want a discount. I have a
Yeah.
problem with this. They don't go to Gucci and ask for no discount. They don't go to Saks
Yeah.
Fifth and ask for no discount. But you
Nor
want to support me, but you're going to
no.
talk me down on
Nor
my
do they
price.
text Gucci at
Yeah,
2 a.m. talking about, like, I need an answer right now.
that's it. Like, have you ever had to break up with a client or turn a client down?
Definitely. No, definitely. I've had to turn down clients. I'll be honest, I've had to ghost clients. Like,
Oh
not
man.
even, better yet, not clients, people that like I just like, it's not even just about, hey, I don't want to do a transaction. There are some people who are so energy draining that, like, even ready to spend, I don't want it.
Right.
Right.
All
And I
money, not
think
good money, right?
as you, like, ascend as an entrepreneur, like, I think at the start, if you're like trying to pay your bills and you're just getting started, you got to take what you can get, right? But there comes a point where you have to, like, understand that not everything there, you have to vet if a client is going to be somebody who, though you're going to make the money, is, if they're going to make your life miserable.
Right.
That's not worth it. Like, peace is not worth, like,
Mm,
losing over some dollars, right?
yes.
um and you got to learn that. I think a lot of things, like, they say, like, you can learn from mistakes or you can learn from mentors. And I think people hear that and they assume, like, the answer is mentors. And I think the answer is that a lot of times, but I think there are things that you have to learn through your own mistakes, right? For example, um, advertising, just using this as an example because it's something I do a lot, like Facebook ads and marketing. Somebody can tell you all day long, this is what I did, this is what worked for me, this is how I marketed this business.
Right.
You got to put your own money up to really see results at the end of the day, to find out what creative is going to work, what targeting,
Of
what
course.
ads are going to work best.
I
You have
told
to
I
test it with data on your own offer.
and I so I had to break up with some clients over this exact reason, right? So I I tell them there's a lot of people who talk a lot, but I'm a doer, right? So I can't say I'm the expert if I've never done it myself, right? I can't say I can do this for you and I haven't done it for myself. So no matter what it is, any business. So um I have a problem with clients when it comes to lead generation, right? A client to me can't tell me that was a bad lead because I'm like, okay, so you have something that they want. They reached out to you and you did not close. That's not my problem as the marketer
Yeah.
at all. It's not a cold lead, it's a warm lead. So it's no such thing as a bad lead to me if you can't close. So this guy's like, I had to break up with a
Yeah.
guy. It's like, yo, this not gonna work for us. And then when you get to a point where a client is so desperate for the lead, that's the most headache client ever. Because it's
Yeah.
like, I need the phone to ring like now. Like it's a magic button that I hit, and then the phone starts ringing for their business.
And back to what you asked earlier about those like misconceptions of entrepreneurs, I think another one is like that success as an entrepreneur is about one thing, that it's just about getting the right offer, or it's just about marketing, or it's just about being able to close. It's not one of those things. It's a symphony of all of those things together. And if any one of those things are missing, the whole thing doesn't work.
That's a
Right.
fact.
So, a lot of people may have a great offer and they'll go through marketing agency after marketing agency after marketing agency trying to get leads, when the real thing is they can't sell.
Point.
Right.
Are y'all listening to this?
And right. And so that's why I'm telling you guys, like, it's not easy, because at the start, like later on, you can hire, but you shouldn't hire before you can do it yourself. Because if you hire before you can do it yourself, you don't know if this person sucks. Right. So you need to be able to do it yourself first, and then train somebody and train them to do it better than you. If you want to be the best at everything, you're going to be very mediocre. You're going to be mediocre in your industry, make mediocre revenue, be mediocre at all of it. And I struggled with that for a long time. I try to do everything myself. Like, for example, I wouldn't want to like add somebody in my Stripe account as having like customer support access, because I didn't want to like get them mixed up with like seeing numbers or whatever. And it's like, or so I used to like handle all the support emails, and when now like I have somebody that does all the support emails, messages, DMs, and I'll be there in there as well. But like the things that used to stress me out the most, man, like waking up first thing part of the day to like drain my energy with customer support.
Yeah.
Outsource that.
By noon, you're like exhausted, right?
And then you can't do the real important stuff.
Right. I mean, I would say that. I think that's one of the biggest things every entrepreneur struggles with, is the delegation of tasks in general, right? So when I hired my first VA, I was just like, nah, it just wasn't the right VA for me, right? So it was just like, I never thought I was a control freak until I really had to let go a little bit, and I'm just like, oh, I'm that guy. Like, I'm micromanaging people, stuff that I hated people did to me. I turned into that guy. But I didn't see the most success until I actually let go of the reins and kind of just started building some structure and letting people handle those tasks that are not dollar productive, that have to be done, and just let me focus on what we really need to bring the money in. So I think that's the hardest thing. But go ahead.
Even within that, I think one of the hardest things, dude, is finding like the right people. You said like their first VA wasn't it. My person I have now, I've literally we were first grade best friends, and I put something on my Instagram story like a year ago, or Facebook or something. Hey, I'm looking to bring some people on. He reached out, and I ascended to giving him more and more and more work, to now we do stuff together like full time. Nice. But like my first hires like were not it at all. And it like, not only was it not it like really imploded some things and like created messes that I had to clean up. Because I was just hiring anybody who would take on the task, because I figured,
you're trying to
delegate, in that mode. Where now I've been able to find people who will not just do the task, but they'll actually think creatively and figure out how to make the task better, how to make the role better. And I'll to be honest with you, to this day, but especially like more recently, that has been one of the hardest things for me in my business when it comes to building teams and delegating, trying to wrap my mind around the fact that somebody would want to see my business grow and do things that makes it grow, even if their revenue doesn't go up directly tied with it. Now, my main guy on my team, like, he's a killer. And so I reward him with like every percentage of new clients that we bring on, like he makes more with that. And I think that's a great way to incentivize it. But like, it's still to this day is hard for me to fathom, like, wait a minute, somebody that has like a salary on this could think, how can I make Kyle, essentially, how can I make Kyle more? And it's a mindset shift. And I think every level has, mental barriers that you've got to break through, which is kind of all we've kind of been talking about throughout this process.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of those things because it's probably going to be the hardest thing anybody has to do as an entrepreneur, especially when you're trying to scale to another level than being, the one man band. And I
Yeah,
think that's the hardest part, because you really have to find somebody who believes in you and the vision as the leader
exactly.
to really say, that's a selflessness about them that they so passionate about what you do and want to see you win that they're not even thinking about, well, how does that going to affect my money? You know what I mean?
And I think too, we have to understand as entrepreneurs that not everybody is an entrepreneur and not everybody is trying to be an entrepreneur. I think the problem for me a lot was I was thinking that in my head, like everybody has the same mindset. And so they want to do their own thing. Right. Whereas like, there's some people that like the fact that you created an opportunity for them in many cases to do like VA work, like my team is in Atlanta, can work from his laptop, whatnot. I've only been an entrepreneur ever. So
Right.
I can't even really, I mean, that's not true. I used to work in Foot Locker.
Eh,
But I can't fathom, going from like a cubicle 9 to 5 to, even working for another entrepreneur and being a VA, doing like, stuff in an entrepreneurial world. That's a huge difference. And you're creating freedom in their life. And so I think sometimes we have to remind ourselves as business owners, like, man, we're creating opportunities, not just for us and our family, uh, but for others as well. And so
Yeah,
we give people opportunities to grow. Like you said, the glass ceiling, we don't want to then go and give somebody else a glass ceiling. And it can
exactly.
be like proportional.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I think giving people an opportunity to grow and like seeing them, and I'll tell my guy, like, hey, come up with some ideas and like run them by me and like see what we can implement.
Of
Instead
course.
of just being like, do this, do this, do this.
Right.
Yeah, make it a team. So
Yeah, I mean, I think, and for me, it's like I never liked having the glass ceiling, right? So had the business owners for the companies that I used to work for gave me some incentive to like make the company feel like it's mine too, and less us grow and not
ownership, yeah,
right. So it's just like, okay, if you tell me I can only make $60,000 a year, is that it for the rest of my life? That's it. I'm just gonna make this 60 grand, but you still bringing in millions every year. Like that's, do I get a percentage of the stake in the company? Anything like that? So, I think me when I started to actually have to hire people because I was an employee for some people, it was a lot of stuff that I implemented within my staff that I was just like, yo, I'm never gonna be that boss. Like
mm-hmm.
literally, we're here in South Florida. I let my guys pick a day out of the week to where we can work wherever they want, right? So you want to go to Miami, let's work at the beach in Miami. You want to go, we
Yeah,
can go to Panera Bread for the day for all I care, the bowling alley, but let's just
yeah,
get out of the office. Like I hate being in the office, bro.
yeah.
It just reminds me of when I used to work for somebody.
And I think on the reverse too, back to that question of like misconception about being an entrepreneur and how I was talking about some people shouldn't be. I think there's some people that like, may say, hey, I don't like a glass ceiling, but they do like the security of,
Of course.
knowing that and that's, I want to clarify, because I think some people navigate this conversation very poorly. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think
Right.
it's different. And I think if I'm wired to where I would hate that. Like I would not be able to do it. Um, but yeah, you got to get very clear on what you want. And if you decide to take this jump into entrepreneurship, like don't expect it to be, even when you're doing well, like a perfectly smooth ship, because that's not how the seas are.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was an issue for me because I was always just doing my business on the side because I had the safety net of a job. So I felt like it's made me not stagnant, but I didn't have to go as hard in my business because I knew I had a steady paycheck, right?
Yeah.
And so as soon as I removed that steady paycheck, it's like go time. Like I don't have nothing to fall
100%.
back on. So it's just like,
100%.
but I also say, like you said, like some people are great employees. Everybody not meant to be an entrepreneur. Some people
There
are
have to
just,
be people that are employees.
how
Yeah.
can an entrepreneur grow if everybody's a bad employee? So
Yeah.
um go ahead.
Yeah. I want to say one more thing on that. Be careful if you're an entrepreneur, just hiring other entrepreneurs,
Mm,
um, especially like in a role that's not entrepreneurial.
okay.
Like there can be incentives and there can be stuff like that. But like, for example, like if I have a PR agency, like, and I'm hiring somebody, I want to know up front, hey, like, are you planning to 3 months from now, start your own. Like
Right.
that's, and it's not even like a personal thing or like, I don't want competition. I think competition has been um, a big piece of my success because it forces me to innovate, right? But if you only hire entrepreneurs, you're gonna be frustrated with not just the turnover, but people want to do their thing, which is fine, but they should go do their thing, right? Um,
I just dealt with
yeah,
this, bro.
just a tip I would give you. And those conversations are best had at the beginning because things can get really messy and really awkward, not just with that, but with anything with people that, especially when there's money involved. When there's money involved, man, conversations, relationships can change a little bit.
Yeah.
But the clearer you are at the start, the easier those will be when the time comes. You just point to, yeah, this is what we agreed upon.
Yeah. I agree, man. I wouldn't say I just let a guy go, but I let a guy go early. So a guy came to me, this guy David that works for me, super great SEO guy, copywriter. He was like a mini me, like balled up, and I'm like, oh, this is the guy, right?
Yeah.
And then he comes to me and he's like, look, Barion, I want to start my own business. And I'm like, please tell me it's not a marketing company, right? Please tell me it's not. And he's like, no, I want to design apps. Like I want to be an app developer. I'm like, oh, that's dope, man. As an entrepreneur, I'm never going to tell you not to do your own thing, man. Go do your own thing, but you don't have to give me a 2-week notice. He's like, oh no, I wanted to, be politically correct. And I'm like, well, I don't believe in the 2-week notice. Like if you're telling me today you're done because you want to pursue whatever it is, today is the day you're going to start pursuing that. Like I don't need 2 weeks from you because your mind is already on your thing. So go do that. Like what's 2 weeks going to do for you? That's
Yeah.
just, you're going to collect 2 more weeks worth of a paycheck from me. I'm not going to get the work out of you that I really need for the next 2 weeks
Yeah.
because you mentally already checked out. So I've dealt with that whole.
For sure. If you can get buy-in from somebody like where their heart is in it, man, oh man, you can go so far.
I agree. So talk to me about this shift into the PR space though. Like why PR?
I mean, dude, I'll tell you right now, we'll get into how I got into it. I tell people like PR is not my passion. And I want to clarify that.
Right.
Like I'm not passionate about PR. I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, and innovating and serving clients and meeting their needs and stuff like that. PR right now happens to be a vehicle by which like I'm enjoying doing that. The how I got into PR specifically, I had the speaking course, all that kind of stuff. Everything shut down with the everything that happened. I'm gonna be careful with my word choices. I don't know where this video is going. Um, and so from there, I was like really at a place where I was like, man, like it, I had built some skills, like I finally got something off the ground, but it was still a pivot where I didn't know what was next, right? I knew how to run ads. I knew how to run ads. I knew that. And so at the time when I was doing my speaker course, like, I've done this, I've made plenty of money doing it, but like on Instagram, you'll get DMs from people offering you their services. Hey, I'll get you featured here. Or, hey, I can, do this SEO for you, whatever it may be. And at that time, I was getting hit up a lot from these guys telling me they can help me grow my Instagram. And they're telling me about these like celebrity, shout out campaigns that I'm sure you've seen, like these giveaways and whatnot. And I was like, yeah, that sounds kind of fire, man. I like
Different.
the first one was some like big influencer that I was reached out to about, and I didn't know like what was normal pricing. I didn't know anything about anything with the space, but I was like, that sounds kind of cool. And so I did one, and I'm an observer. So if I like use your service or use whatever, like I'm also breaking it down. I'm
Of
also
course.
like
You
just
got to understand it.
naturally, yeah, I want to understand it. Even if I'm not trying to get in that space, I'm curious. And so I was like, man, I can do this. And the barrier to entry wasn't very high. And so I literally just started offering those services because there were campaigns happening all the time. And it was cool. Like I made a little bit of money, like, bills paid, all that kind of stuff, like pretty much right away and everything. But um, it was hard for me to, if your heart isn't in your brand, or better yet, if you can't find alignment between what you're selling and who you are, you're going to have a hard time scaling because you're going to have a hard time promoting. You're going to have a hard time putting it out there. And the whole thing with like, I think building your audience is great, but it was a kind of messy industry. And I'm not saying people shouldn't do it or should do it, whatever. It wasn't what I wanted to put my name behind as this is what I do and this is my thing, right? Um, and so I decided to like, not really do that as much. But at the same time, these guys were DMing me saying, hey, I can get you featured in XYZ, publication. I was like, wait a minute, this is kind of tight. Right. And so, but what I noticed two things. One, I noticed like there were some players in the game. And first of all, I get hit up all the time from people that are like, oh, like so-and-so does something similar. So-and-so. I've never said an ill word about anybody. Mad respect to everybody who's been in it before me, after me, whatever. Like I innovate because there's people doing it well. But I was like, I can do this better in the way of like, a lot of these guys aren't running ads and probably their background isn't on it. They're in that. But then two, I was just like, man, I can do this. Like helping people tell their story instead of on a stage like it was before, but now online, I can do this. And so at the time, one of the ones that was really popular was those top entrepreneur stories in Yahoo Finance. I know you've seen those before.
Got one of those, bro.
Bruh. So let me break it down. Now that we're a year out, right? I got into this space. I was doing some small stuff, but this was like my first campaign that I was like, I'm gonna go hard. And so should I give him the game, bro?
Yeah, bro, let's do it.
Oh, okay.
You don't gotta give them all of it, but you can give them. No,
I'm gonna give him some game. So this is my entry into this space, and it hadn't started ads yet. And you were probably on this list, but I made a list of like literally it was probably like 400, let's say 30 people, and I wanted to do a Yahoo story that I was going to put together, highlighting the top Black entrepreneurs to know about. Okay. And so what I did is I made a list of a lot of things like this. And this is the reason I'm sharing this. It's a numbers game. I made a list of 430 people. I reached out to every single one of them and I offered the chance to be featured on this list in addition to some bonus publications that I probably shouldn't have done because it was a lot of work. But and I charged $1,000 for it. So I said, $1,000, you get all this. Honestly, great deal, especially at the time when this stuff was newer. And so, and I literally just DM'd the 400 something people on my list. Wow. And I filled out that list of 30 spots plus some other ones. And in that first 2 weeks of my agency made 50K, something like that. And I was like, oh, wow. Crazy, I was like, right? This is pretty fire. So then crazy. I literally went to the dealership and I bought a Jaguar. And I was like,
bitchy.
I was like, because I've been driving the same thing for a while and I'm into cars. Like I love cars. And so I was like, dang, like this is sick. And there was no ad spend. There was no, like I had like expenses and stuff, but no ad spend. So I was like, this is fire. And so then what I did next is I did the same thing with other industries, but I was like, what if I didn't do any of the messaging, but I had other people do my outreach for me? So I hired a team to do the outreach and like, I would just be somewhere, with my wife or whatever. And they were getting sales, not at the same capacity that I was, just because like I know how to sell and whatnot. But
people probably trusted your name too, though.
Yes, exactly. But at the end of the day, like they say, I heard this the other day, like a percentage of something is better than than nothing, right? So they were bringing in sales, and it was like a little bit slower, but they were bringing it in, and so we did that. And that was kind of my entrance into that. And then we got into like doing more like press release stuff and stuff that I could really churn out faster. And gotcha. At this point it was, I'm just getting the game right now. Oh, here we go. I was running ads for our Fox, CBS, NBC bundle, okay. Which is like, I can put people in that, like that. There's restrictions and stuff like that, which I'm sure you're familiar with. But I was trying to run ads for it because I like building things like my speaking course where like it's automated. Like I'm trying to working hard
on it every day. Yeah.
I'm trying to work hard so that I don't have to work hard. Like put all the work in now so that it's automated. And I was doing it like 500 and it was getting sales, but like it wasn't an impulse purchase. And so the ads were like breaking even, which is like really you're losing money and it's just a waste of time. And then Black Friday came last year and I was like, what would happen if I just like slash this price, right? And I did. And so we took it down to, I did a $97 offer, which like is crazy.
Wow.
And we did a 24-hour turnaround time, which is like
Yeah.
only possible because of the crazy systems we have in the back end where I don't have to touch anything. But also like at first I was like, dang, lower price means I'll make less. But I was like, okay, if I can do this at high scale. And I mean, that first month, um, like one of the first months we put like 1,000 people in it, like just from the ads. And at that point, when we talk about ads, like I wasn't doing any more outreach or anything. It was pretty much all automated and whatnot. Um, and man, we just scaled it up. That started at Black Friday, which I'm thankful for because it like I don't know that on a regular day I would have
Gotcha.
justified to myself slashing prices.
Right.
But that's another thing with your offer. If you're like, man, I want to be a high ticket offer, and you sell it, it's your thing is priced at 5,000, and you're like 3 months go by, you haven't made a single sale. Lower your price. Like
First.
you have to find the price that works best.
Yeah.
And like some people take pride. People always told me like, bro, like $97 for with ad spend, like that'll never.
Yeah.
Hey, people lie, numbers don't, right? And
Out of
so
volume. Yeah.
we just ran that. We ran that a lot, and I put people in place to where it's pretty automated.
Mhm.
I'm honestly not even doing that one right now. We're doing some different sites, but a lot of it is driven by ads, and then over time, my name has just been associated so much with like Kyle can help you with the social media space, whether it's press or whatever you need, go to him. And
Yeah.
so, in addition to that, people like yourself and like others are keep bringing me things like, hey, you can sell this too, you can offer this. And I'm just learning things and adding products and services to where
Oh,
now it's like, PR agent, cool, call me that if you want. But really, I'm just this, internet entrepreneur with this umbrella of services. Whatever you need, I got it. If I don't have it, I can get it for you
that's a fact.
fast.
Nah,
And
that's
so we
dope,
we
man.
deliver things fast. That's our
And
main
that's
thing.
that's crazy because so like in 2013, I created a website called hiphopdose.com. I used to be
Yeah.
in the music business. I retired from like being an artist and I just wanted to be behind the scenes in the music business. But I wanted to have a platform to showcase new talent. So I created this website, Hip Hop. I didn't really know what I had. I just kind of was, it was like a blog basically. We put out the new music, but I used to interview, like literally on a microphone, interview artists, like when they came to Miami. So if you came to Miami, you either went to the radio station, you went to live on Sundays, and then you left. So I wanted to be like a stop that you had to do when you came to Miami. And we did good. Like, uh,
Yeah.
so from a journalist standpoint, I was always in the journalism's field, but I fell into the PR field on accident, bro.
Right.
It was
Same.
the
Yeah.
it was this, I think this girl hit me up and was like, hey man, I could get you on Disrupt Mag. I think it was Disrupt was like the first times I was like,
Yeah.
what's this PR? And I'm like, I don't even know what Disrupt is, but yeah, let's do it.
OG.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, well, shout out to Tony, man. But I'm like, yeah, let's do it. What is it? So she did me a Disrupt one. She's like, now I have Yahoo Finance and then I have Kivo Daily, and it was just like all of these things, and I'm like, who is she? And I could do that. Like I've been doing journalism. Like I can really write really well.
Yeah.
Um, and I just all on accident, bro. Just like, but it always comes back to people trusted me because I always put myself out there, right? So I didn't
Yeah.
even really start working on my personal brand until 2018. Everybody knew me from the music business. So when I started going by my real name, nobody knew who I was. I literally was starting from scratch.
Yeah. I get it.
And it's just like, yo, but I needed that because the people that knew me from high school and all those people aren't gonna buy from me. They're gonna
Yeah.
want it for free. So I was just like, yo, let me start. And I fell into the PR space, bro, on accident. I seen there was some money to be made, but like you said, my heart is not in PR. It was just like oh, this works. Like
Yeah. We're entrepreneurs, man. It just happens
it's,
to be a vehicle.
it's a
I
stream.
Yeah, for sure. I think another thing I want to add to that, if you don't mind, is like, a lot of people, you and I, like we start things. We like are like, oh, I can do that. So I want to like take ownership of it. There's also, if you're like, hey, I want to start making money online, but I don't have anything to sell, there's a lot of money to be made. And with any offer, not just PR, coming to somebody like one of us and saying, hey, like, here's exactly what you should do. Reach out and be like, hey, I'm interested in reselling your services. Like, what can you give me like a wholesale price? Like, that's completely normal. And that's completely something that you can do. You don't have to create your own products and services. People do that with PR. People do that with $30,000 Amazon FBA stores.
Of
Right.
course.
And so I want people to understand you don't have to like be Elon Musk and like create something from scratch. Oftentimes, you probably shouldn't. Like, even what
Yeah,
we're talking about, we didn't create from scratch. We just saw how we could do it better, or at least how we could do it, and carve our own lane in that.
that's a fact. Yeah, like, so for example, most people don't know I started my marketing agency doing logos. That's
Yeah.
my marketing agency. We didn't do half of the stuff that we do now. Like, it started with logos. So we would sell a logo for $200. I'd hire a girl on Fiverr to do it for $5, and everything in between was my
Yeah.
profit.
It's called job servicing. Yep.
So, like, yo,
I love
and
it. No,
and
I love it. I love the
so I
model.
built that business off logos, and then it went from we met with clients and hey, oh man, we thanks you for the logo. You wouldn't happen to do websites, do you? Sure, we can.
We can do whatever you need. Whatever you need,
We
we
do
got it.
whatever. So that's how I created the brand castle. So it literally started off
That's a fire
logos.
name. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. It started off with logos, and then it went to websites and social media management and content creation, photo, video, all under one roof, bro, the brand castle. So
Yeah,
um is there anything that I'm missing that we didn't talk about? I
man.
feel like I'll be here with you all night, bro. Just
No, we're
chopping
very
it up,
similar.
man.
I love it, man. Yeah, man. I would just encourage people like get in the game. Like, it's not too late. Like, I remember a few years ago, like especially when I was in college, I graduated in 2019. I would like be up all night on YouTube watching these kids my age find their success and their path, and like, you know, make some money online and like get a car, whatever it was. And sometimes it felt like far off, but at the same time, I knew in the back of my head, like, if they can do it, I can too. And so I would hope that anybody listening to this, or I'm sure any of your other interviews, that what they would leave with is like, we are some like, you know, regular people, and like we have much farther and bigger things that we want to accomplish over the course of our life. But, you know, you can, my agency started like a year ago, just a year and a half ago, like, and I'll probably start another thing in addition to this soon, and I'll scale it up faster than I scaled the last thing. But don't just watch. Like, man, imagine, you know, like there's people that were like, man, crypto Bitcoin at 3K is too expensive.
Now they're
Bitcoin at
kicking it.
5K and 10K is too expensive.
Right.
It just passed 60K.
Crazy.
And now isn't necessarily, I'm not saying it's good or bad, get in it, don't get in it. It may not be a bad time to get in if you believe in it, but get in the game. Don't just watch on the sideline. What can I say one more thing?
Go ahead, bro.
If you live your life saying that everything that looks too good to be true is a scam, and you live your life going around just like, I don't even know, just like with these scam goggles, like really just on the defensive, like, man, everything is fake,
Right.
everything, and you never invest in anybody. You never like, I've invested in so many programs and things that like were not at all what they promoted it to be, but I learned something.
Something.
And if you can't get something out of even something that was poorly created,
Yeah.
that is more a reflection of you. If you can't find something,
Right.
then, you know,
Like that. I like that word, scam goggles. I like that. I'm gonna have to use
bro,
that.
yeah,
Man.
just peeling around, just like don't want to invest in anything because every new opportunity, like Bitcoin 3K is a scam.
Right.
Could made so much bread on that. And that's hindsight is 2020. But you have today. That's what you have.
Man, there you have it, man. I appreciate you, Kyle, so much, man. This episode has been, if you haven't gained nothing from this episode, something's definitely wrong with you. That's definitely a reflection on yourself. But I thank you. I'm your host, Barion McQueen, for the Everyday Game Changers podcast, talking to people every day that's changing the game. Thank you, Kyle, for blessing us with your presence and your insight. And we definitely got to do this. And when I come out on the West Coast, man, we got to link
Bro,
up.
come to LA. Yeah, come to LA for sure. I got you.
So
But yeah, I appreciate you having me on here.
definitely, man. We're going to be in touch, and I appreciate you.
Awesome, brother. Appreciate you.